Hello, everybody. Thank you all for making time to come learn with us today. My name is James. I am the co-founder and CEO of Alter. I'm going to do just a brief introduction, then I'll pass it over to Patrick to do an intro, and we'll jump right in. So from the very beginning, the vision for the company and for myself has always been to make data access safe and easy. Sounds very simple to do when you say it out loud, very difficult to do when you do it in practice. But we feel very grateful to be able to be in this space right now. Even 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, when we were first getting started, data security was a big topic. But with the advent of these AI agents and other systems now, we feel very lucky to be working at such a time. I am a hardware engineer turned software CEO. So I do have some technical chops, but I do spend most of my time now on the business side. Alter primarily serves large regulated businesses. However, we have been finding ourselves now working with some medium and small size entities. So when everything goes well with our solution, customers feel confident that they know where their sensitive data is. They know how it's being accessed, and they know that they can meet both internal and external requirements around audit and security. So it's a very, very fun time and a very fun place for us. As I mentioned, I'm joined by one of our senior sales engineers, Patrick Archer. So, Patrick, you want to say a quick hello, and then we'll jump right in?
Yeah, of course. Hey there, James. Good to be here. I'm Patrick. As James said, I'm a senior sales engineer at Alter. So I lead our solutions engineering function and serve as the primary technical resource on the go-to-market side, which is just a fancy way of saying, excuse me, that I spend most of my time working with customers, with prospects in the field, actually figuring out how Alter can fit into their data stack, how we can address enterprise grade use cases. So glad you're all with us. We have some very exciting content to share today. And with that, I'll pass it back to James to commence.
All right, we're going to talk about how to govern and secure data in the age of these AI agents. So here's a couple of topics that we'll be covering today. As we are all aware, we're kind of facing another revolution here of data security and data governance. Right, obviously we saw revolutions with mobile, we saw revolutions with cloud and other things. So what types of risks and challenges our business is facing today? When we think about visibility into data access, it's become one of the most important layers to the approach. So hopefully we can all learn some lessons from the days of service accounts of past and apply those learnings to these new systems here. When we talk about policy, we've been saying the same thing for a long time now, which is policy at the data layer or at the data level is the most important thing. Now this has become extremely true. So we're going to talk about how policy is faced there. As we think about tying agent access back to humans, this was a big discussion, big argument point that was going on in the industry for the past few months and few years. We think the message is very clear now that there does need to be a human identity tied to all these use cases. And then probably the reason you all are actually here is Patrick's going to take you through a real live demo here of what this looks like and can start showing you what your new reality could look like depending upon where you are in your governance journey. Just quick context setting, we probably all know a lot of these things, but what I mean by AI didn't solve a problem, it didn't solve a point problem. It was built as a generalist solution to solve many problems. As you're probably all aware, what we're talking about here is the generative revolution around AI. And I think one of the most exciting things about this, but also what leads to some of the challenges we're going to talk about today, is that we're seeing non-technical users finally get kind of unrestricted or unlimited access to data by being able to just talk to, from a prompting perspective, your data systems. I think it's enabled a lot for businesses, but it's also created some difficult challenges. And these challenges are not to be ran away from or feared. We can solve these challenges, but they are new. When we think about what these AI systems and agents are doing, they're working for us constantly. So no more days of just kind of setting up access rules for the weekdays and then turning access off over the weekends. These systems are going to be always on. When I think about machine speed, I always think about the movie The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch. I never say it correctly. The story about the World War II, of the British trying to break the German Enigma machine. Alan Turing's approach was in order to beat a machine, you have to build a machine. We see the same thing with these AI systems. To govern and secure them, you have to use automated software. As you think about scale, I think about this as a new problem facing data, which is yes, they're going to scale out and access data in a way that humans don't do before, but they're also creating data and storing new data. And I think that scale problem is one that we're not quite ready for yet. And then restraint. It's already hard enough to prevent humans from doing things with data that they probably shouldn't do. When these AI systems start to get access and go off on their own, restraint can be something that is needed to be enforced as it's still being taught to these agents. There's two main problems that Alter is looking to address and companies like our customers are facing. We're going to talk about the one on the right mostly today. However, I did want to introduce the one on the left to you all as well. Training models on your data is a problem in and of itself. We've seen the synthetic data industry really pick up. But I think our approach to this is you have to, at some point in time, you have to practice like you play. So whether that's on day one or day 100 of using your AI model to train on your data, you're going to want to look at ways to do that. But we'll cover that in a separate session. Today, what we're really going to focus on is how do you govern and secure access to live data when you give these agents access, either directly or through your human access. Um, Hopefully, this is not too dissimilar for a lot of people joining today, because believe it or not, the same three pillars that are governing humans' access to data should also be governing our agents' access to data. That's identity, policy, and the observance of that access. So we're going to jump in to each of these pillars here and go through some very key examples. There's been a lot of talk of is an agent a human? Should a human have to own what an agent does? And I think the consensus has really come down to yes. This discussion was happening at the identity providers and the identity governance layer, and I think that the answer is very clear. And the nice thing about where the tooling is today and where things are today is a lot of these push down systems for identity are already being built into these AI frameworks. I was just at the ServiceNow conference last week, which is having a big push around the safe and secure use of AI. One of their big products, Workflow Data Fabric, allows the push down of user identities into the agents that are off doing work for the individual user. So every AI action needs a human owner. This is achievable today. You can do this through your identity providers. You can do this through your identity governance solutions. But we have to learn from our lessons of the service account past, and we have to stop letting service accounts hide data access, especially with the rate at which access is going to happen. Policy is a very important system, as I mentioned during the agenda slide. Putting policy in the application layer is not going to work for you at scale. You have to put that policy at the data layer. Fortunately, the main systems where data is being consolidated today, things like Databricks, things like Snowflake, are built to allow this policy to exist. Use these policies to your advantage. Use dynamic masking. Use classification at a later session or a later date, or maybe Patrick will have time in the demo today to show you some use cases for format preserving encryption or tokenization. But you need to be able to control your human and your agent's access to data and do it in a way that does not disappear if that data moves or gets changed or altered by the system. Lastly, of the three pillars, observe, and this one is probably the most critical, although I do hate when people like myself say this is the most important one, yet it's the third one in the list. But being able to observe what's happening. Database activity monitoring is a key component to your compliance, governance, and security strategies. You do not have solid database activity monitoring in place. I suggest you start here and you start here right away. These logs can be very useful to help you find anomalous access to data, but they also give you the foundational knowledge to be able to answer questions around what are these agents doing, and then you can tie that what they're doing back to a why within the business. And I think that's extremely important. Use your database activity monitoring solution to provide alerts. Those alerts can be as simple as Slack messages or emails, or you can get very complex with it and integrate these systems into your SIEM tools or your SOAR tools if you have those. Lastly, before we jump into the demonstration here, just a quick recap of what this looks like. I think the key thing to take away from these three pillars is, can you accurately answer questions about an agent's access to data, and can you do it in a timely manner? By this, what I mean is, can you clear, if somebody asks you what people are using what agents to access what data inside of our Snowflake database, for example, you should be able to answer that question in a matter of minutes, not hours and days. So that should be your takeaway is, can I answer questions about my agents and their use of data in a very fast and efficient way? If you can't do that, I think you should really look at the tooling and the processes that you have in place. So with that being said, we're going to jump into the demonstration. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go off video and let Patrick show you all the good stuff that you probably all came here for. So let me stop share, and Patrick, it's all yours. Take it
Perfect.
away.
Yeah, thanks a lot, James. So, as James alluded to for the AI governance demo, I'm going to be jumping through a twofold approach. So, there's a workflow recorded in Claude Desktop, and then I'm going to be live in my browser within the actual Alter platform. And as James discussed in the slides, there are three primary constructs or pillars to this workflow. You have identity, you have policy, and you have observe or monitoring. So we're going to watch through this demo workflow, all three in action through one user's day at work. So there are going to be two main characters in this role play. There's going to be an end user in marketing who's trying to do her job as a manager. And then there's going to be a security admin that's watching everything sort of as like an arbiter. So I'm going to jump in to the demo here. And James, I'll ask you to just give me a quick sanity check as I switch my screens.
Certainly. All right, I believe we see your Claude instance, if that's your intention.
Excellent. So just some further color right on this role play. Let's meet our end user here. So she's a marketing manager. She just came out of the meeting. Her executives have asked her a series of questions about customer distribution, right? Who's buying our solution, our product, our services. But she doesn't write SQL. She's never opened a database tool in her life, right? Very much a pure business user. What she does have access to is an AI assistant that her company has connected to their data that's stored in Snowflake. And in this case, it's Claude. So she's come out of the meeting and she's posed to Claude that she needs to understand customer segmentation more acutely. She doesn't know SQL again. She needs to dig through the database. How can she take a look? She needs Claude to surface what she can actually see so she can make sense of that data. Right. So a few things to notice here. One, you have your natural language input, right? That's customary to AI interaction. She didn't write a query. She described a problem that she needed the AI to solve in plain English, layered in some intent, some context, and it rendered a response. Furthermore, Claude can actually discern who she is. So it's querying Snowflake with her identity. This is a very important inflection point. This is exactly what James had spoken to in his preamble there. It's all about identity attribution. There's a lot of sprawl with service users across different tools, oftentimes very disparately and disconnected. It's very important that as you power your AI workflows, your agents, that you are able to pinpoint an individual user. And then lastly, the security team, which you'll see momentarily, has already preemptively decided what her identity entails, meaning what's her role, what's the policies associated with it, and then every column that Claude's going to show her as a result. So that's pillar one in action, identity. So every single action has a who, and the who is what governance actually attaches itself to. So before we persist further with some additional prompts, I'm actually going to jump into the Alter control center. Right. So again, every query that Claude in this case runs against the Snowflake database, it's governed, it's logged by Alter within this centralized, modularized control center, as we call it. And it's built to help control and audit sensitive data in every single stage of the life cycle. So not just protection, but discovery as well as monitoring. So who's accessing what, where, when, and I'll just give you a quick rundown of some of the primary modules here. What you see on the screen is the dashboard module. This is going to give me a real-time view of every query, every user, every agent, every single policy decision that was invoked. And as James had mentioned, this can be wired into your SIM, your SOAR, your ITSM tools. So your security center of excellence is able to take advantage of Alter acting as your both security monitor and security guard. And then coupling more of that analytics or BI view, we have our query logs. This module is going to capture every single query, store that data, right? Understanding where is the governed data actually being queried with full context enrichment, and there's no extra piping that needs to be laid out to show this. Right? So you can see my individual users querying from varying roles, right? There are individuals and businesses that have to wear many hats. And again, to my prior point, James's prior point as well about identity attribution, I have a user here, Claude demo user, right? That's my AI user. Now, in a production scenario, AI again should be tied to the individual that's prompting it, right? So while it needs to have some autonomy and be able to discern and take action, it needs to be attributed to the individual that's actually using it, right? So in this case, I've deliberately chosen a more generic name. In a production scenario, James perhaps would then be appended to this AI agent. And then the last module I want to spotlight here before we jump back into Claude is the policy module. And this is where security teams actually write the rules of engagement. So you're able to create policy scoped by tag, by column, by row, by more traditional read write or CRUD access control. You can choose the protection that fits and also how the data should be rendered. So should it be partially redacted? Should it be fully obfuscated through masking? Should it be encrypted, tokenized? Should there be certain behavioral thresholds that are associated? Everything here Alter can control from a policy driven standpoint. It's associated in this case for this Snowflake example with roles, right? So Snowflake particularly adept at RBAC. Here we have our marketing users, including our marketing manager, finance individuals, different PII tag values, and then based on that tag, the uh, rendering of the data. How should it be behaved, right? What the result set that is. So again, Alter is going to be able to give you this no code interface to set this policy, and then everything will be enforced thereafter at the data layer. So again, we are a marketing user, marketing manager. All the results that were just produced in Claude and will be momentarily all filtered through Alter's policy here. Different roles, different views. And then just to dive a little bit deeper here, I want to call out this alert. So I mentioned not only RBAC driven, not only are you being able to append tag and tag value to a policy, we also have behavioral thresholds that can be set both at the time and the volume level, right? So that's this alert here. So with that, let's jump back into Claude here and continue with our query. So I'm going to ask two questions here back to back and as different roles. So first is the marketing manager, and then we're going to switch hats briefly to a finance manager so you can actually see the inversion. So here as a marketing manager, I'm asking it to show me customer records from our customer table. And given that policy that I had just shown in the Alter control center, you can see that certain PII information, notably name of customer, as well as some geolocation information, is fully obfuscated, right? Fully masked. We're able to see plain text of phone number, partial last four of social security number, right? And you can see as Claude is summarizing here that as it's querying Snowflake as this user, and as Snowflake is interacting with Alter, it clearly knows that there's some data governance policy on this table because those masking policies are pushed down to the data layer by Alter. Now, again, if I switch hats as a finance manager, working on a different problem, but same customer table. I ask for the same information. Again, per that policy that was just showcased, say a finance user needs to reconcile accounts, they have different access to that same table. So now phone numbers are partially shown, partially masked. Social security numbers reveal full plain text in raw form. Because again, finance needs to reconcile accounts. They don't need phone numbers. They don't need geolocation information. That's PII, right? Both roles querying the same table, the same policy set and alter, but different views. So this granular dynamic protection, this is all done by Alter in that policy driven workflow. You create that policy once. As new data is added, the same constructs are automatically enforced. So this is pillar two. This is policy and action. Now, as I proceed forward here, if you recall, I had quickly parked on that alert that was appended to a particular user in that policy that helps with more behavioral thresholds, what we call rate limiting. So here I'm asking as a marketing manager to help my marketing team on behalf of demand gen pull 200 phone numbers from the customer table. So not only are we able to mask information based on who is querying through these different agents, but we're also able to limit based on the time they're querying and the volume of data. So here, Claude has indicated that nulls have returned, and this is a result of that rate limit condition being triggered. That's going to prevent users with the particular role from querying certain amount of information within Snowflake. So I'll show you what this looks like from the alter view. So this user has been returned null by Claude. It's indicated that there's clearly some additional governance here. Now back in the alter control center, we've been alerted to a user that has exceeded that conditional threshold. It's triggered this alert. It has also detained that user, so they can't take any further action until this alert is remediated or triaged by a security admin. So here I'm going to add in some notes, right? And as I go through this workflow, this is the third pillar in action. This is observe. Policy without observability is really just a hope, right? Alter is not just enforcing rules, it's amalgamating the monitoring component too. So it's watching for behavior outside the intended policy control. So here I'm going to resolve that alert, and you would then be able to allow that user to proceed forward in querying. Right. And again, those logs can then be persisted up through SIM, SOAR, BI applications. And I'm here now back resolving that alert, and I can regenerate that query with less volume attached to it. So 75 instead of 200, and you can see Claude will be able to render a response. And the last piece here I want to showcase is on the actual speed in which Alter can provide this policy protection. So as I pivot back to a marketing manager, I'm going to try to solve the original problem. So how do we understand customer segmentation across location, perhaps city? So we're asking Claude to answer this, and Claude is going to query Snowflake, right? The agent's going to take action, and it's going to tell us we don't have sufficient permission to accomplish this task, right? So I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to submit a ticket here, right? Through, say, a service now. I'm going to gain access. I'll be right back. Now, security can get that request, say, all right, I will permit temporary access. I'm going to edit this existing tag-based policy we have set for Snowflake, and I'm going to remove the masking behavior. And as soon as I save this, this is going to push those updated permissions instantaneously, right? So rather than having a user jump through several hoops to gain access, a security admin is empowered by Alter to actually act. You don't have to push this through a full SDLC lifecycle, manually write database specific SQL, right? Do any type of scripting. very quickly from that no code control center. You can update that policy, and the user is off with their analysis, right? Removing those blockers to the business. And you can see I ask it to query again, and it successfully rendered the visualization that I had asked for, right? So I know we're tight on time here. James, if you would, I just want to go back to that pillar slide and just close this out before we open up the floor to questions. And you're on mute, James, but I don't think you have to go off right now.
There you
Uh,
go.
Perfect. So, team, again, just to close out here, three pillars at play that Alter facilitates: identity, so every single action has a who; policy, so who is actually mapped to rules, right? And as those rules evolve, that user is tracked, right? It's nuanced, it's role aware, it's at the data layer. And then the last piece is observed. So when behavior actually departs from that policy, somebody sees it and they can actually act on it before it becomes a breach, right? And you can see as AI is empowered to act on our behalf, that an identity is persisted through to the data layer where Alter serves as that protection layer, and it will enforce masking, encryption, including format preserving encryption as well as tokenization. We're doing the watching. We're also doing the guarding. So, James, I don't know if you have any further closing thoughts before we open up the floor to Q&A.
Yeah, just wanted to thank everybody for taking the time today. Hopefully, this was entertaining during your lunch, or if you were traveling in a car or something. Learn a little bit about how businesses are leveraging tools like Alter to govern and secure their access to data. If you all would like to discuss some of your challenges or some of the projects you have going on, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. A member of the team will be sending everybody a version of this webinar that's been recorded, so you'll have the information to go back to. In the time that we have left here today, there is one question I think we should probably touch on, and it has to do with the observe pillar, which is actually good because I think it's the most important one. And it says, compliance team is asking me to demonstrate that AI agents can't access data outside of, looks like, their defined scope. What does this report or attestation look like? How do I produce it? So it's a very good question. I think there's two immediate answers to your question. If you're using a tool like Alter, you can just simply generate an export or generate screenshots of some of those modules that Patrick showed during the demonstration. The other answer to your question, and this is maybe for some of the more mature businesses that we work with, but a lot of these stats and other data elements can go back into one of these data sources, very similar to Snowflake or to Databricks, and from there be a part of a much larger compliance and auditing and reporting strategy. We at Alter are also working with ticketing providers and workflow providers like ServiceNow and Atlassian to be able to plug some of these automated responses or automated answers back into your existing workflows today. But the short answer to your question is you can leverage the reports and the screenshots and the modules that are being produced by Alter, or you can leverage the data that's being produced by us. And again, I really think the activity monitoring approach to this is the first place for you to start. And I know we just talked about Snowflake here today, but it's important to have that monitoring across all your database systems and have a tool like Alter be able to help you do that at scale. So Patrick, thank you very much for joining me today. I know you're a busy man. There's lots of things going on. Thank you to our entire team that helped put this together, Courtney and to Nick. We look forward to hearing from you all. Hopefully this was educational. Hopefully you learned something. There will be a couple of follow-up sessions here, so keep an eye on your LinkedIn and your inboxes for those. And thank you all very much. Have a good rest of the day.